The King has revealed, and he's been under pressure for quite a long time, and William has also revealed the amount of tax that they paid. I think, look, if we get the figures here, because I'm terrible with figures. So Charles's tax payable for 24-25 was 12.9 million, which was up from the previous year. He is, I think he's one of the top 100 taxpayers in the UK. We know that Charles is obviously a very, very rich man. Is it right for him to... I mean, how does it make you feel, the fact that Charles has revealed his tax? What's the reason behind it? Why do we need to know?
Well, I think it's the context of why it's happening now, I think, is very important. There has never been more scrutiny on the royal family and more calls for transparency. And I think a lot of it stems from issues in recent years, particularly around Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and his former official role, and the fact that this is now getting scrutiny that it had never had before. I think that the King and also William have realised that now is an excellent time to get on the front foot with this sort of detail. And I do applaud that. I think it's important that they do see that, and this is what has been briefed out there as well, is that they want to start an era of more transparency. This is part of that greater drive, and I think it is a crucial thing. With that said, it does also raise questions. We know he paid tax, but we don't know the breakdown of that tax at all. So it doesn't really tell you how wealthy he is, which is truly, I would like to know, personally.
In actuality, it's not a tax, because if you pay it voluntarily, that's not actually a tax. But I'm being a pedant.
You're right, and the monarch is under no obligation to pay tax. I think it's a step in the right direction. And to be fair to Charles, he's been looking at this for a very long time. When he was Prince of Wales, he was the first heir to the throne to publish his tax return. So this hasn't been, his hand has not been forced. He's a very smart man, and he has tried to gradually modernise the monarchy since he took to the throne, and that will continue under William. It's a clever thing to do, and the British monarchy has been very successful always throughout its history of trying to be more transparent, having a good relationship with the public upon whose largesse they rely. Let's not forget the Queen Mother, those amazing images during the Blitz. They get it, and I think, was it the Queen Mother that in the 80s said to Diana when they were touring some city centre, we're paying the rent. This is what we do. So they're very pragmatic. I think they're savvy. They are PR conscious. I think it is the right thing to do. By the way, it's no mean feat, because the tax affairs of the King and the Prince of Wales are Byzantine and complex. There are so many income streams. And so it's actually quite difficult to reveal how much tax you pay. But it's got to be done for the future credibility of the monarchy. What I will say, there's a lot of negative headlines about how much money they make, how rich they are. Get over it. It's the royal family.
Shock horror. Royal family are rich.
And also this rich stuff. I mean, so many of the assets, they're not going to start selling crowns on eBay. And Charles isn't like, going to rival Andrew Tate for the number of Lambos he's got in the garage. So they are actually, notwithstanding their prodigious wealth, I think they're quite parsimonious as a family. I think the Queen struck that tone.
Well, do you remember I worked with a colleague, actually, Ryan, he worked at a paper about 15 years ago, and he got a job as a footman. And the late Queen was having a breakfast she had to have food out of Tupperware, and she had leftovers, and they lived quite a Spartan
life. Yeah, the
lifestyle.
Roberts radio and the Tupperware, and we know Charles is notorious for recycling his clothes, to the point where Grant Harrell was telling me that he's got one particular favourite tweed jacket, and it goes to the dry cleaners for repairs about twice a year.
I believe that.
And Grant was back, because Grant now is on Civvy Street. He's a member of the public. He's a normal person. And he still uses the same dry cleaners. And
he has a jacket that you see, a picture of him at Highgrove a couple of years ago that he has literally had for 20 years. It's kind of threadbare, and there was a picture of him walking around in his garden. He's had it for decades. But that's why rich people stay rich.
Of course it is.
And I was going to say, also just quickly before we move on, that was such a good point, though, that the King has led the way as the Prince of Wales with this in the past, with his tax. And what I did find interesting this time around as well is that Prince William actually is the one that wasn't revealing it in the past, and now he is. So again, at this moment, and particularly in this context, it's interesting that they are both in step in driving this new era.
For the record, Prince William's Duchy of Cornwall paid 7.76 million in income tax and capital gains tax. So that's top earner as well. They're not hiding from it. It's a difficult issue, and they're not hiding from it. I asked you about your tax because I don't want to. Most people don't want to go revealing their tax or even how much they earn. I just think it's quite a brave move.
Yeah.
But sticking with money, are they worth the money that we give them? Because The core funding of the monarchy is to jump to almost £100 million a year. I found it really interesting that it was 9.96. It's almost like when you go to a shop and something's £9.99. You think, oh, it's not really a tenner. It's only 9.9, but it's almost...
Does that happen when you put your receipts into the boss here at
this interview is over.
Exclusive.
100 million pounds a year. So there's a new formula to calculate the sovereign grant, which is a very archaic, complicated system that was set up by the Tory, redesigned by the Tory government about 15, 20 years ago, where they get a certain percentage of the Crown Estate's profits. Obviously, the Crown Estate goes up and up and up. The money never comes down, so the monarchy never get less than last year. It can only go up, but it does face a lot of opposition. Are they worth the money?
That's a great question, Matt. And as you say, that sum has been set, and it is set, and we're told about it, and now it's in place for 5 years, and they are costing a lot. That core sovereign grant, because obviously it went up while the refurbishments or the resurfacing was happening on Buckingham Palace.
This is £369 million they spent on Buckingham Palace over there. We'll get on to Buckingham Palace in a minute.
So I won't jump ahead, but there was an extra amount added, of course, while that work was happening. But so we're looking at the core amount, and what I found really interesting in these documents is the fact that core grant has gone up in 3 years. It's doubled. And to your question, are they worth it? Well, people, especially right now, they want to know that they're getting their money's worth. I think that there is a lot of respect for the king. We've actually seen in this era of a lot of global uncertainty that he has been playing a major role on the world stage. They do a lot of great work. I think they're... At the same time, the monarchy, there was a poll just a few weeks ago, I believe it was, where support for the monarchy had dropped to its lowest point yet. And these things are all sort of happening at once. I don't think there's any clear answer on how people feel about this number. I think it's a jarring number when you look at that jump in 3 years. But with that said, I think time will tell now. Moving forward, there are things in place. I think that people... the king will need to stay the course, but there is constantly that question about, is the monarchy fit for purpose? Are they worth the money that we're spending on them?
Well, this is the money to almost like run their household and to run the working side of the royal family, so all the engagements and the travelling and stuff like that, and going abroad. Is it value for money for us, do you think?
I think it is. And let's not forget that the world has seen a massive jump in inflation in the last few years, post-pandemic, post the war in Ukraine, then the war in Gaza. We've got the Strait of Hormuz blocked. So, I mean, we don't have the world's smallest violin here, but the costs of running the royal household have gone up, just like costs have gone up across the board. The other issue is that I think that jump is significant, but I think it will be tempered by a monarchy that is seeking to live within its means to a greater extent now than ever. So, for example, the coronation was pared back. And that was quite controversial at the time because people thought, no, we're getting a new king. Let's do this properly. Let's put on a show. There were politicians who were quite cross that Charles had decided for a more modest affair. But that set the tone. William's going to be the same. He, for example, has, we think, his forever home at Forest Lodge. So that's a more modest affair than some of the other royal properties. It's on the Windsor estate. So I think that, yes, it's expensive, but I don't think now that the rate of, the rising cost is going to be exponential going forward. And what I would say is that critics, cynics know the price of everything and the value of nothing. 100 quid is a drop in the ocean. The way I see the royal family is it's part of the UK brand. We know about the soft diplomatic power. We know that when the king goes to visit the United States, he's in the White House. He goes to France and Paris, he's in the Élysée Palace. That's not going to happen with a clapped out ex-politician who's called president. So I think they've got huge value. And the other thing that I would say, as well as all of that, is that you need, for branding now in this PR conscious world, you do need a face that represents the country. And the way I liken the royal family is how Hollywood will use Tom Cruise to sell a movie. And for me, King Charles is our Tom Cruise.
I love that.
He's our Tom Cruise.
I think you are exactly right in terms of that value. And I keep thinking about the America trip, for example, in that case. But also in terms of the grant going up, I believe it was, and to your point about the royal properties, as well for the backlog of maintenance on royal properties, which there's an argument that this is part of, Britain's culture and identity as well. So there are elements in there, the royal family is the beating heart of your culture as well. Like people come here just to see them and to be part of that. So I do take your point very much on that, but it is still obviously a large figure.
Well, the US trip that you just referenced there is really interesting because I went on it and I was there was there for his after dinner speech. I was there in Congress when he made that speech. I saw the reaction. Imagine trying to put a bill on that. Imagine, trying to charge the UK taxpayers and saying, "No, it's priceless. You can't put a bill in it." I think this is cheap. But I don't want to get carried away.
Well, you're right, because it's a moment of the country is on a bit of a downer at the moment. We've got an outgoing Prime Minister, the economy's struggling, and there are lots of social issues within the UK. And Charles's speech to Congress was a massive uplift for the country, I thought.
It was incredibly helpful, and I think it was worth the money. What I do struggle with, as we touched on earlier, was the £369 million that's been spent on Buckingham Palace. You mentioned about William and his forever home at Forest Lodge. He's not going to be living at Buckingham Palace. The King and Queen have made it very clear now that they're going to stay at Clarence House. I mean, legend dictates that if the Ravens left the Tower of London, the monarchy would fall. Will that happen at Buckingham Palace if the royals abandon Buckingham Palace?
No, I think it's a very symbolic building, and it's where so much of the administration of the monarchy happens, and those public-facing events, and of course the money shot, which is the balcony. So it's not going to lose its significance. In terms of the cost, that is definitely not a personal advantage to the king. It's a public building. It's ours, effectively. And it costs money. We've got the House of Commons. The Houses of Parliament are going to need 3 or 4 billion to prevent them sinking into the sea. Buckingham Palace is no different.
Well, they talk about how open it is to the public, but they've been briefing this for a couple of years, to be fair, saying that an increase in the amount of events and the amount of people that go through the doors to attend royal engagements. I was thinking about this the other day, that it just feels like it's becoming the world's most expensive community centre. Genuinely, it's just a vast building in the middle of London that is now a community centre rather than an official royal palace, and I think that's sad.
Well, I do think I have a level of sadness about this. I mean, does it really matter where the king lays his head at night? Well, I think back to when I was younger and I flew over from, the accent gives it away, I'm Australian, shockingly, not British, and when I'd fly over here and we went and you wanted to see Buckingham Palace and you'd look for the flag and you'd think you could maybe see the late Queen sticking her head out the window. Yeah, I'm not alone in this. This is very much the theme of why people get so excited about going there. And so that part of it, I do think there's a sadness. It's been the monarch's home for, 200 years or something. And I can understand why Charles and Camilla, they're in their late 70s. Charles has had health battles. They are settled in at Clarence House, which they prefer as a residence. I understand why they don't want to move. The argument is that it will be now more accessible to the public. But as you say, it's not cheap. I think that there's an option here where maybe a way to sort of temper this is to allow more access to the public, or maybe even offer it as, the Vatican you can go to for free, the White House you can go to for free. So, I mean, you have to book it. But I think that it is a sad thing to lose, but perhaps if there is enough of a push where the public feels like they're getting their money's worth with all of the money that's been spent on it, it might temper the sadness of... And also we'll see him drive back and forward between Clarence House.
Oh, great, we'll see him drive back and forward. But it's weirdly symbolic that no one in the royal family, the King, the Queen, William and Catherine, want to live in Buckingham Palace, but they're saying, hey, Harry, you can stay there for a couple of days when you come over.
Well, that's true. I mean, you're just like one of the worst rooms, in the house reserved for Harry. What is the issue with Buckingham Palace? Is it drafty? Is it too big? Why is it unattractive?
It's a fishbowl, isn't it?
Do we know?
I think they've described it as a fishbowl, like where I think
it's too public.
I think the entrances and exits seem to be. I mean, I think it was Harry that described it as a fishbowl, or someone has previously. But I think it's because it's right at the centre there, and it is a little bit less discreet with their entrances and exits, etc. And isn't it? You would know this better than I, because you go there for
all the time.
Yeah, you regularly visit the palace. But it's an older building that's not as
well, not now. I mean, we've been in and seen some of the renovations on the West Wing West Wing, I'm trying to remember my compass points. The East Wing that overlooks the Mall. It's glorious in there. They've renovated it. It's absolutely beautiful. You can go in there as a tourist if you like, and you can see some of the rooms. And they've got loads of stuff from the Royal Collection Trust. It's a wonderful building.
I think as long as it remains a working building, that's good enough for me as a taxpayer, because I don't want it to be a museum, because at that point it becomes like a capped tooth.
Yes.
It's purely a cosmetic affair. And that's what I absolutely love about Parliament, is this arcane Victorian structure is still the home of our democracy. And it's where MPs field constituency inquiries. And I think that adds to the status and magic of Parliament. And I think it's the same for Buckingham Palace. It's got to be the monarch's HQ.
The late Queen used to stay there 4 or 5 nights a week, or 3 or 4 nights a week, because it was in the heart of London, and you could, you get audiences and stuff like that, and then go back to Windsor at the weekend. It should be the heart of the monarchy.
And if they have the offices there, etc., as you're saying, if it maintains that, and I think that it is this idea that it will be Crown HQ still, as long as that does continue, it will.
It should never become an ornament. I think that would be a real shame. And just a thought about the next generation. I think Charles is doing his son William a favour, because it would be a very bad look, the optics of Charles living at the palace and then William takes to the throne and doesn't move to the palace. It would be very jarring. So I think it paves the way for William and Catherine to be king and queen in a different way when they take to the throne.
Interesting, I agree with that.